I woke up one morning and my pillow had this weird stain on it. When I looked closer, I realized it was coming from my chest area. That little bump I'd been ignoring for 8 months, it had gotten so bad, it was breaking through my skin. And that's when I knew I couldn't pretend everything was fine anymore. Please listen to my whole story. What you're about to hear could save your life or the life of someone you love, your daughter, your sister, your best friend. Cancer doesn't care if you're too young. I was only 32. The signs I missed, you need to know them.
My name is Sarah. I'm 32 years old and I live in Portland, Oregon. Um, Before all of this happened, I had what I thought was a pretty normal life. I work in marketing for a tech company. Nothing too fancy, but I love what I do. I was super into hiking, yoga, basically anything outdoors. Portland's perfect for that. There's always a trail to explore or a new coffee shop to try after a workout. I got engaged to my boyfriend Mike in November 2023. We'd been together for 4 years, and honestly, he's the best thing that ever happened to me. We were planning this beautiful summer wedding for July 2024. Nothing huge, maybe 80 people, but we wanted it to be perfect. I'd already bought my dress. It was hanging in my closet, and I'd look at it every morning and just smile. It was actually right after we got engaged in December 2023 when I first noticed something. I was in the shower, just doing my regular thing, and I felt this tiny bump, like seriously tiny, maybe the size of a pea. And I thought, that's weird. But then I remembered I'd been working out a lot, maybe pulled something. Plus, I was 32. Nobody gets serious health issues at 32, right? My mom didn't have any issues until she was in her 60s. Casual conversation. I mentioned it to Mike once, super casually. I was like, hey, feel this. Is this weird? And he was like, I don't know, babe, maybe ask a doctor. But neither of us was really worried. It wasn't painful or anything. It was just there. The holidays came and went. We were so busy. Engagement parties, meeting with wedding planners, picking out flowers. My best friend Jenny threw me this amazing engagement party in January. I remember wearing this strapless dress and not even thinking about that little bump. It seemed so insignificant compared to everything else going on in my life. Looking back now, I kick myself. Why didn't I just make an appointment right away? But you have to understand, I felt fine. I was running 3 times a week, doing yoga every Sunday, working full-time, planning a wedding. I didn't feel sick. I felt the opposite of sick. I felt like I was in the best shape of my life. By February 2024, that little pea had become more like a marble. Still not huge, but definitely bigger. And this is where things started getting weird. My left breast, that's where the lump was, started looking different from my right one. Not dramatically, but if you looked closely, which I started doing every morning, you could tell. The skin started doing this weird thing where it looked kind of dimpled. You know when you squeeze an orange peel and it has all those little indentations? That's what it looked like. I Googled it. Worst decision ever, by the way. And everything pointed to, well, to things I didn't want to think about. I finally made a doctor's appointment in March. I went to my regular physician, Dr. Martinez, who I'd been seeing for years. She did an exam, felt the lump, and I'll never forget what she said. "Sarah, you're 32 years old. The chances of this being anything serious are incredibly slim. But let's do an ultrasound just to put your mind at ease." The ultrasound technician was this really nice woman, probably in her 50s. She kept making small talk while doing the scan, asking about my job, the weather, whatever. But I noticed she got really quiet after a while. She kept going over the same area again and again. When I asked if everything was okay, she said, "The doctor will discuss the results with you." Dr. Martinez called me 2 days later. She said the ultrasound showed some irregularities, but that we should take a conservative approach. She wanted to wait 3 months and scan again. 3 months? I pushed back, said I was worried, and she actually said, and I quote, "Sarah, young women often have dense breast tissue that can cause benign lumps. We don't want to put you through unnecessary procedures. Besides, you have your wedding coming up. Let's not create stress where there isn't any." I trusted her. She was my doctor. She knew better than me, right? So I waited. But during those weeks, things got worse. The lump grew from marble to, I'd say, like a walnut, maybe bigger. And my nipples started doing this weird thing where it kind of pulled inward. Not completely, but enough that I noticed it when I got dressed. Mike noticed too. He didn't say anything at first, but I caught him looking worried when he thought I wasn't paying attention. One night, he finally said, "Babe, I think you should see someone else. Get a second opinion." But I kept thinking about what Dr. Martinez said, that I was young, that it was probably nothing. By early May, I couldn't ignore it anymore. The pain started, these sharp shooting pains that would go from my chest all the way down my arm. Sometimes I'd be in a meeting at work and have to excuse myself because the pain was so intense. I started wearing looser shirts because anything tight was uncomfortable. The worst part was my arm started swelling. My left arm looked noticeably bigger than my right. My engagement ring was tight on that hand, even though the ring was on my left hand. I couldn't do yoga anymore because downward dog was excruciating. I stopped running because the movement hurt too much. Then came that morning I mentioned at the beginning, May 15th, 2024. I'll never forget the date. I woke up and there was this spot on my pillow. At first I thought maybe I drooled or something, but when I looked closer, it was coming from the area where the lump was. The skin had actually broken down. Mike drove me to the emergency room. I was crying the whole way, not from pain, but from fear. I knew something was really, really wrong. The ER doctor took one look and immediately ordered a bunch of tests. Mammogram, more ultrasounds, blood work, the whole 9 yards. The radiologist who did my mammogram was different from the ultrasound tech. He was all business. After the scan, he came back in and said, "We need to do a biopsy today." Not "we should think about" or "maybe we should," just "we need to." The biopsy itself wasn't as bad as I expected. They numbed the area and used this device that made a clicking sound to take tissue samples. The worst part was the waiting. They said it would take 3 to 5 business days for results. Those were the longest 5 days of my life. Mike took time off work to stay with me. We didn't talk about it much, but we both knew. We binge-watched entire seasons of shows I can't even remember now. We ordered takeout every night because neither of us could stomach cooking.
My phone kept buzzing with wedding vendor emails, the florist wanting to confirm numbers, the DJ asking for our song list. I couldn't deal with any of it. My mom flew in from Florida. She kept saying things like, "It's probably just an infection," or "These things are usually benign." But I could see the fear in her eyes. She'd lost her sister to cancer when I was little. She knew what this could mean.
Dr. Martinez called on May 20th at 2:47 p.m. I know the exact time because I'd been staring at my phone all day. She said, "Sarah, I need you to come to the office. Can you bring someone with you?" When a doctor asks you to bring someone, you know it's bad news. Mike and I sat in her office, holding hands so tight I thought I might break his fingers. Dr. Martinez looked uncomfortable. She said, "The biopsy results show invasive ductal carcinoma. It's breast cancer, Sarah. I'm so sorry." The rest of that conversation is a blur. I remember certain words jumping out, like stage 3B, HER2 positive, aggressive, spread to lymph nodes. She kept talking about treatment options and oncology referrals, but all I could think was, I'm 32 years old. I'm supposed to be planning my wedding, not fighting cancer. The oncologist, Dr. Chen, was amazing, though. She didn't sugarcoat anything, but also didn't make me feel hopeless. She explained that my cancer was HER2 positive, which sounds scary, but actually meant there were targeted treatments available. The plan was aggressive, but doable. Chemotherapy first to shrink the tumor, then surgery, then radiation, and then a year of targeted therapy. She said 14 of my lymph nodes were involved, which is why my arm had been swelling. The cancer had basically taken over my lymphatic system on that side. But she also said, "Sarah, you're young, you're strong, and we have good treatments for this type of cancer. This is going to be the hardest year of your life, but I believe we can beat this." The chemotherapy started 2 weeks later. 6 rounds of TCHP. That's 4 different drugs given through an IV every 3 weeks. They put in a port, this little device under my skin near my collarbone, so they didn't have to find a vein every time. The first round wasn't too bad. I felt tired and a bit nauseous, but I thought, okay, I can do this. The second round hit different. The fatigue was like nothing I'd ever experienced. It wasn't just being tired. It was like my bones were made of lead. Getting up to go to the bathroom felt like running a marathon. And then my hair started falling out. Not gradually, in clumps. I'd wake up and my pillow would be covered. I'd wash my hair and handfuls would come out in the shower. Mike found me sobbing on the bathroom floor one morning, surrounded by my own hair. We postponed the wedding. There was no way I could walk down the aisle bald, sick from chemo, with drains hanging from my surgical sites. Some people might have been able to do it, but I couldn't. I wanted to be a bride, not a cancer patient in a wedding dress. The decision about surgery was hard. Dr. Chen recommended a double mastectomy, even though the cancer was only on one side. She said given my age and the aggressiveness of the cancer, it was the safest option. I struggled with that. These were my breasts. They were part of who I was. But Mike said something that changed my perspective. He said, "I fell in love with you, not your body parts. I want you here for the next 50 years, however that looks." The surgery was in September 2024. 8 hours on the operating table, They removed both breasts and more lymph nodes. I woke up with drains hanging from my sides, these little bulbs that collected fluid. I had to empty them and measure the output every day. It was gross and humbling and just part of my new reality.
Radiation came next. Every weekday for 6 weeks. The technicians would position me just so, leave the room, and zap me with radiation. My skin got so burned, it looked like the worst sunburn you've ever seen. They gave me special creams, but nothing really helped. I just had to power through. But here's the thing, I wasn't doing it alone. Mike was there every single day. My mom extended her stay. My friends created a meal train so we didn't have to cook. Jenny, my best friend, came with me to chemo and made me laugh even when I felt like dying. She'd make up stupid games like spot the worst hospital art or do ridiculous magazines and do dramatic readings of the articles. I found this online support group for young women with breast cancer. Suddenly, I wasn't alone. There were hundreds of women going through the same thing. We shared tips about dealing with neuropathy, recommendations for comfortable bras post-surgery, and just vented about how unfair it all was. One woman, Lisa, became my cancer buddy. She was 34, diagnosed a month before me. We'd text during our middle-of-the-night steroid-induced insomnia. She got it in a way that even Mike couldn't. When her cancer came back 6 months later, it hit me hard. She's still fighting, and she's still my hero. Today, I'm 8 months out from my diagnosis. I finished active treatment in December 2024. I'm still on targeted therapy, Herceptin and Hergetta, which I'll continue until May 2025. My hair is growing back, though it's different now, darker and curlier. I joke that cancer gave me the curls I always wanted, just not the way I wanted them. We rescheduled the wedding for this September. It'll be different from what we originally planned. I'll likely still be recovering from reconstruction surgery. I might not have hair long enough to style, but I'll be there, and I'll be alive, and that's what matters. The thing I want people to know is this. Advocate for yourself. If something feels wrong, push for answers. Don't let anyone tell you you're too young or too healthy or too anything. I spent months being told I was fine when I wasn't. Those months mattered. Maybe if I'd pushed harder earlier, I would have been stage 2 instead of stage 3B. Maybe I could have kept my breasts. Maybe a lot of things. But I can't live in the maybes. I can only move forward. Every 3 months, I get scanned. Every 3 months, I hold my breath until I hear the words, "No evidence of disease." It's not the life I planned, but it's the life I have, and I'm grateful for it. To anyone going through this, you're stronger than you know. It's okay to cry, to be angry, to grieve the life you thought you'd have. But don't give up. Fight like hell. Because life, even with cancer, even with scars, even with fear, is still worth living. And to my past self, that girl who found a pea-sized lump and ignored it, I forgive you. You didn't know. But now we do better. Now we know better. Now we fight.
Thank you for listening to my story. I know it wasn't easy to hear, and honestly, it wasn't easy to share. But here's why I told it. Every single day, someone gets dismissed by their doctor. Someone is told they're too young or too healthy to have cancer. And every single day, that costs someone precious time. If even one person listening catches something early because of my story, then every difficult moment was worth it. So please, if this resonated with you, share it. Leave a comment about your experience, whether you've been through something similar or you're supporting someone who has, or even if this just made you think differently about your health. Your story matters too. Hit that subscribe button if you want to hear more stories like mine, real stories that could save lives. And yes, that little thumbs up helps more people find this video. Because somewhere out there, someone needs to hear this. Someone is lying awake at night, worried about a lump they found, wondering if they're overreacting. They're not, and they need to know that. Take care of yourselves. Listen to your bodies. And never, ever let anyone make you feel like you're being dramatic about your health. You know your body best,